Welcome back to Epic Quest Random Adventures. I'm Brad, this is Hoy.
And today we're going to focus on the table of Lore Galore and the Quest's Game Masters.
The Quest Game Masters inspires the Inner Circle to create a unique game. Well, the game we're going to be talking about is not one that we created, but one that our friend Ninja Nathan created. It's called Stranger Tales.
There are 88 photo cards in the deck that you pass out to the participants of the game who share a memory or emotion that the picture evokes. Now let's go to Nathan Ninja, who will give us details about his game, Stranger Tales.
Stranger Tales is a very simple card game that I developed in 2018 as a solo project. It's a deck of 88 cards. Each card simply is a full-color photograph of something you might encounter in daily life, such as a bunch of colorful umbrellas, or a spiked heel, or a limousine, something that evokes an experience or a memory. And the game is played very simply. The rule mechanics are extremely simple and similar to Cards Against Humanity. So you take turns being the active player, and everyone else around the table will secretly hand you a card upside down. Mix those cards up, you don't know who gave you what card. Take a look at them. Now you're looking at 4 or 5, however many players there are, different pictures. One of those will evoke a memory in your life, just a short 1 or 2 minute memory, something that you experienced or witnessed. That you would like to share with the group. Simply share your story and then reveal the card that you were inspired by, and the player who gave you that card gets that point. There's a little bit more to it as far as the scoring. We don't need to get into that at all, but it's extremely simple. It's playable by all ages, children to, in fact, the older you are, the more stories you have. So there's, if anything, an advantage for the older players. The strategy of the game is simple. You want to give an image to somebody who you think they'll pick that image. So that's the only strategy. And as you play the game, even with strangers for the first time, you start to see the patterns of what kind of cards they're attracted to. Maybe the more risque cards, maybe the more simple cards, maybe nature cards, maybe cards with dogs or cats, etc. You kind of like understand their personality a little bit better as you play the game. So it's a game of breaking the ice and kind of getting to know people and tapping into these memories that people are carrying around with them. What inspired me to create the game was going to these small events around Detroit and talking with people and just learning about their lives. And every single person was just brimming with amazing experiences. You know, they've had their entire lives experiencing things that I've never even heard of or experienced directly. And just to hear those stories and to share that and to get to know these people was really inspiring. So this game is really just getting those stories out of our heads and sharing them. And if you play the game with someone that a family member, somebody you've known for many years, sometimes the card will evoke a memory that they haven't even thought of for many years themselves. Like, oh my gosh, this picture of a cat reminds me of this time 18 years ago that this cat crossed my path, and this hilarious or sad or touching story, whatever it is, ensued. So it's a simple game, and it's quiet magic in it. And in some ways, I consider this a game to be a sequel to Morton's List. In Morton's List, it's a game of real life experiences in groups, and it tends to generate a lot of memorable experiences. And then this game is kind of sharing those stories, whether they came about through playing a game like Morton's List, or just came about through experiencing life, through travel, just through the random stuff that happens. So it's a fun game for people of all ages, and it gets at these stories that are locked away and not shared. Everyone's walking around with a wallet And in your wallet, you might have however much cash, credit cards, whatever else. You have a certain value attached to you through this wallet that we all seem to carry around. But we also have so much value in not only our skills and things that we carry around with us that can be monetized, but in the stories in our heads. And whether we're monetizing them or not, as long as we're sharing them, getting them out there, it's just it's a lot of fun. So I hope people enjoy the game and learn more about themselves and the people they're playing with. And it's just the entire game is just a simple rule system excuse to get at these stories and share those stories. I should mention that there are 2 ways to engage with the game. What I've been explaining is the tabletop version that you would play like any other card game. Very similar rule mechanics, again, to Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples. Very simple rule mechanics that anyone can play around the table. But actually, there's another way to engage with the game. It's sort of like a, you could say there's the home version around the table, and there's a party version. And this is actually, when I was developing the game originally, this is the idea that really inspired me. And the home version was simply a way to make that game more accessible to people who are familiar with typical kind of card games. So the party version is, so for instance, say you're hosting a house party or a gathering that might be like a one-night event, or maybe you've got there's like a weekend event for maybe more people. Maybe say you've got an event for up to 100 people, or even a wedding, anything like that. As the host or as someone who's bringing this game to the event, you could bring a deck of cards and give each person as they enter the event, say 1 card, 2 cards, or 3 cards. And the rules are on the back of each card, so it's very simple to explain. And that throughout the entire event, the people with cards, whether you have cards or not, can play the game as a metagame with anyone else in the event. You could walk up to anybody and say, oh hey, do you want the card game thing that's going around? Oh yeah, okay. Well, tell me, what does this remind you of? Tell me a story in your life from this card. Share a simple 1-minute story. The other person does as well. And then you can rock, paper, scissors to see who keeps the card, or whatever rule mechanic. Then perhaps the host who gave the cards at the beginning of the event, when they're giving them out, would say, meet me at 11 p.m., let's say, and whoever has the most cards will win a prize. It's always a good idea to have a prize. You just go to the dollar store, you can find a lot of prizes that are that'll go over well. Just something kitschy. You go to a thrift store, you can get some great T-shirts and stuff. It's whatever you want to do, right? Or make it a valuable prize, whatever. So I was playtesting this around Detroit in events, and there was a real magic behind it, because as people, it's an icebreaker, obviously. You can walk up to anybody and say, oh hey, let's do this card thing. So it's an excuse for anyone to walk up to anybody and start a conversation. So not only is it an immediate icebreaker, which has all those benefits of doing that, but as you share these stories, you're making these interpersonal points of connection. So throughout the evening or throughout the weekend, you've met more people than you would have met otherwise. And that stranger becomes the stranger who told me the story about the time he almost blew his leg off from fireworks, or whatever the story was, right? So you have it's an effect of decreasing the anonymity of a certain event. And it's subtle, but really not subtle, because at the end of the event, you see that there's this more energy, there's more connection. People are holding themselves and interacting with people as they would surrounded by friends versus surrounded by strangers. If you're surrounded by strangers, you might act more reserved. You might, what's appropriate for this group? You might self-censor a little bit. You might be a different person than you would maybe around a group of close friends, where you can maybe feel like you can be more yourself, or share more of yourself, or feel more comfortable, for whatever reason, right? So this game, by having interactions in the party version of the game, helps people kind of drop those defenses and feel like they're around friends, people they've shared information with, shared stories with, made connections with, even a simple 1-minute memory, That's all it takes. And so there's a real magic behind that, and I've seen that work. And in fact, when the game was released in April of 2018 at Dark Carnival Games Convention 2, that was the biggest playtest we've ever had. We had about 700 people, and everyone entering the convention for the weekend-long convention received cards as they came in. And this was a big test to see if this would work on this scale. We never even tried it at this scale. And I just sat back and watched people as they would go out on smoke breaks and they would be out there sharing the stories, rock, paper, scissoring to see who gets the cards. We did a great thing. We did amulets and a bunch of prizes and stuff to encourage that as well. But yeah, you could see it in action. People making those connections, talking to each other more than they would have otherwise. And throughout the weekend, you could just kind of feel like it's shifting the vibe a little bit, but in a positive and more social, more connected direction. And to me, that's what gaming is about. You know, the rules, the mechanics, the winners and losers, all that kind of stuff. It's just about real people and real connections.
Thank you, Nathan, for telling us about the game. And Hoy, why don't you tell them where they can pick up the game and how to win one?
If you'd like to pick up your very own copy of Stranger Tales, head to the link in the description below. And if you'd like to win a copy, just type Stranger Tales in the comments and we will randomly select a winner.
So we're going to do a quick game demo, and we're going to share some of our memories from a few of the cards.
The first card I got is a tape deck, and that reminds me of being a little kid, like 4 or 5, and I had tons of just blank cassettes, and I would sit down and pop in a blank one and do like a little radio show and put songs in there, or I'd read one of my books out loud, or listen to old Michael Jackson tapes, stuff like that. But I guess I always had a passion for doing like radio stuff and production because I still like doing it, so that's what it reminds me of.
This card it's like a compass and a map, and the memories that it brings back for me are all the travels that me and my wife have had together, because man, she is like the best vacation planner in the world. We've been all over the country and been down to Mexico, been to Canada, East Coast, all the way up and down the East Coast, from Miami all the way up to, I think the farthest north we've ever went is maybe like Boston area, and we've been out west to Washington, California, Montana, and I just lots of good memories in this card with me and her.
My next card is a bunch of water slides. Now that brings up a lot of different thoughts because I don't like water slides. I don't like water slides and I don't like roller coasters and stuff like that. So last time I tried to get on a water slide, it was a kiddie water slide. And I had to have the lifeguard right there really coach me into doing it. It was nothing. It was like maybe a 15, 20 foot slide, no turns, nothing. You just go straight down into a pool. And I finally wound up doing it. And once I did it once, I started doing it over and over with, 6 and 7 year olds behind me, but I had fun doing it. So that's what that card reminds me of.
Now this card blows my mind because it looks just like a Morton's List laid out, and it's got this like starburst and stars and stuff, and Morton's List is probably one of my favorite things in the world, but well, besides family and my life and stuff, but it's really inspired me to go out and see the world, to try new things, and I mean, positivity at the max when I think of this card and I think of Morton's List. It really just brings back good memories hanging out with my friends, and Hoy going on quest with him, and Jeremiah, who's running the camera right now. Thank you, Jeremiah. You're awesome, dude. All right. Thank you for joining us, Epic Quest Random Adventures. We always appreciate you coming here, and we'll see you on the next video.